Hey friends, happy May the 4th, Star Wars Day unofficially, day 52 very officially of quarantine here in southeastern Michigan. Welcome to This Is Not a Snow Day, my every weekday video series in which I try to make some sense of our new reality, because a snow day is one free day you don't have to worry about. This is not a snow day. This is our not new normal, but our new reality right now. I am not going to talk a ton because I have a really exciting interview with one of my favorite people. He's a coach, he's a writer, he's a former competitive athlete. He's also a former student and a dear friend. He talks a lot about mental health, as May is Mental Health Awareness Month, kicking off right now, as well as how to filter through all the stuff we're seeing on the internet, and how to process all the complicated feelings of confusion, sometimes anger, and just every time I hear Brad Stulberg talk, I feel smarter. So my interview with Brad is coming up in a moment. For those of you who haven't had a chance, or maybe you're new to the feed and it's got past you, I would love it if you would subscribe down below. This lets you know when new videos come out so you can check them out. Love for you to comment things you'd like to see, things you'd liked, and share this around. Share this with people, especially as we kick off May, Mental Health Awareness Month, with some really trying realities and a lot of information that's not always easy to process. I think Brad's words really are helpful. So it's our longest one yet. Heads up, there is a swear word that happens in there. There's a swear. I think it adds value, to be honest. We left it in there. So earmuffs if you need to, right before Brad drops some truth. Thanks so much for being here. Enjoy the interview. Subscribe, comment, take care of yourself so you can take care of others. This is not a snow day, my friends. Here we go. Hey, Brad, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, Kevin? Good to be here.
Good, happy to have you. So you're in the West Coast. You're in the Bay Area?
Yes, I'm in Oakland, California.
Awesome. So I know you 100 different ways, and you have done 50 million great things. So what would be your biography? What do you want people to know about you and your path a little bit?
I am Kevin Ozar's English student in 11th grade.
That's all we need to know. That's all.
Now a little bit older, a little bit more tattooed, and a lot less hair.
True. All of this is true so far.
and arguably a little bit more wisdom.
Arguably. So you are leaving out two published books?
Yes, I've written 2 books, and I write essays and articles that appear in different places on the internet.
Yeah, so you're downselling all of this. So these are books that have showed up on the New York Times lists. These are, you write for major publications like Outside Magazine. You have been an elite competitive athlete in your time.
So you're overselling everything. So basically, let's just middle it out for the listeners. So no New York Times bestselling list. I think maybe like an Amazon list. No elite athlete, like a decent age group athlete. So yeah, that's me.
Okay, all right. So you write a wonderful newsletter with your co-author, and you also have a podcast. And you guys just published something that I think is fascinating in an age where many of us are home and our news is coming to us via social media and digital media. Tell us a little bit about what you and Brad have recently released.
Me and Steve. I'm Brad.
Steve, excuse me. Yeah.
Oh, man, all that love, and then he can't get my name right, guys.
Well, I was thinking of you. I'm like, don't mess up his co-writer. Don't mess up his partner's name. And
yeah. So my collaborative partner Steve and I, we just we were pretty and I think this might actually later segue into something else that I know that Kev wanted to talk about with me, but we were both feeling a little despairing last week. Just as a result of some of the stuff that we were seeing on the internet. A lot of people with no public health or really any kind of truly scientific background making all kinds of calls for drastic action, from like free America now, open everything up, to we need to keep everything locked down in eternity. So this is a both sides thing. And it made us pretty sad, because these are people that have no right to be making all cap statements, because nobody knows what to do next. And that led us to think that, I think part of what we think the problem is that a lot of the general public doesn't necessarily understand what science is and the tools that we use to get our information. such as Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, while they are phenomenal tools and I'm on those platforms, they are not necessarily the best place to watch the scientific process unfold. So science is messy, science is humble, science is constantly changing your beliefs. Science is the opposite of an all caps opinion from somebody that doesn't work in the field that they're commenting on, which is a lot of what social media is. It's fascinating to see how many people have gone from high school football coach to world-class epidemiologist, or from hedge fund tech investor to
Right.
ICU doctor, just overnight. And it doesn't work like that.
No, nothing works like that. And so one of the criticisms with the internet, even before the pandemic, is there's no nuance on the internet. It is broad brushstrokes. So if I'm regular human and I'm trying to get my news and I'm trying to be smart about it, I'm concerned about how do I process, like, what should I be thinking about as I see seemingly trusted, respected people with these big statements? How do I filter through that?
So there's a few things. The first is just a general mental model that I like to use, is that when people are swinging to extremes in any direction, always look the other way, because the answer is generally somewhere in between. So if people are saying, open up America now, everything should be open, versus keep America closed indefinitely, the answer is probably in between. It's probably like we should very cautiously consider opening parts of the country in very certain ways and adjust as we go and be willing to quickly close. So just always assume that there's more nuance. And then in terms of credible sources, I like to look for people that are at the very least subject matter experts in what they're commenting on. So they are epidemiologists or physicians or public health, PhDs. But again, I think it's just being aware of it. The problem with this is the people that are, and we're talking about COVID now because that's what's happening, but you could apply this to nutrition advice. You could apply this to anything. The people that are experts aren't as enticing because they're humble. They're the people that are saying, well, here's what I think could be happening, but here are all the ways that I could be wrong. And I'm going to update my beliefs when things change and change my mind. And on the internet, that's seen as weak. On the internet, what we want is, this is the answer. I'm the guru and I can tell you why. And I think a prime example, again, going back to COVID, is a lot of people are currently saying, well, at first, these big government bodies and international healthcare bodies told us not to wear masks. Now they're saying wear masks. So how should we trust them? And that's the scientific process. The scientific process is making your best bet based on data, and then when the data changes, changing your mind. So another way just to think about evaluating information and the source of it is, are they using the best available evidence to come to their conclusion, and are they willing to update their beliefs?
Yes.
Because so far, everyone from non-scientists, all caps, tech bros, to the president, to the finest scientists in the world have been wrong on this. So what I ask myself is, who is holding to their guns versus who is updating their beliefs? And the people that are updating their beliefs are the people that I listen to.
Yeah, Brad, this is wonderful, and I'm happy to hear you say that. One of my frustrations pre-COVID, just with kind of cultural mindset, is just a binary. It's like, it's this or they're that, and this goes with, oh, that artist, they're canceled now, and everything they ever made doesn't count because of this. Like, okay, hold on. And
totally.
We have to have room, even though it's uncomfortable, for complex evolving beliefs. That and science is part of this. It is science.
It's exactly that. It is science, and it should be how we evaluate. I think it's a part of how we evaluate people. Like, your friends can be really wrong on something. You can have a family member that is really wrong on something. And then particularly in this moment where the political culture in our country, in America, feels really tribal, I think that we also have a hesitancy to want to prove people wrong and be like, I gotcha. I told you that was the wrong choice for president. What we should be saying is wow, the amount of respect I would have for you to change your mind when there's new information is huge.
Yeah, totally.
And this happens on both sides of the aisle, for sure. And it happens with all kinds of people. So like, if you're a super progressive person and you're trying to convince your super conservative parent or uncle to change their mind, don't be like, I got you, here's all the way wrongs, I told you so. Be like, wow, like it's really hard to change your mind. I respect you for even considering changing your mind.
Yes, this is why Brad, I'm happy to have you saying these things that we've even discussed privately and for the length of our friendship, and I love you putting it out there because you are quite a humble guy, and I think you have some great thoughts.
And I'm wrong on stuff all the time. I'll be real quick. Like, so it's to put my skin in the game. So I'm a very progressive person. My parents are fairly conservative. And an example that I use when I'm talking to them about, like, it's okay to be wrong. Like, maybe when you voted 3 years ago, you thought you were making a good choice. And like, I'm just asking you to have an open mind. When this all first started happening, I was like, you people are nuts. This is just the flu. Not even. There's so much hysteria.
Yeah.
Because based on the available information that I had, which was that the last umpteen, quote unquote, public health emergencies all turned out to be not so bad. I'm like, okay, this is probably going to be one of those. That's what I was saying in January.
Based on the data you had.
Based on the data that I had.
Experience and data. Yep.
When the data changed, I was the first one to say, holy moly, like I was wrong. This appears not to just be the flu. And I updated my beliefs. And I didn't tell myself I'm stupid. And I wasn't like, oh, I was wrong, or like now people are going to think I'm stupid. It's the opposite. It's like, geez, like I missed that one. Of course I'm going to change my mind. And it's so freeing to be able to say that you were wrong on something.
Yes. I remember the conversation I had with a first grade teacher in my building, and we stopped and we're like, is this a big deal? And she's like, I don't think it is. I was like, I think you're right. And then we met like a week later. She's like, Kevin, I was like, I know, I think. And
it might be a big deal, and you shift, and that's the scientific method. It's evaluating what's in front of you and being willing to update your belief. It is strong opinions loosely held.
Yes. And one of the things that I say to teachers all the time, and I've been saying it to parents who are watching this as serving as educators, is the more you can own that you were wrong and why you were wrong and what you're doing different creates more of a flexible mindset. And if you grow up in a house where it's this, and I'm going to stick to my guns, then we raise another generation who are entrenched in opinions that they're not examining. And that's not what we need. So flexibility of thought, owning your mistakes. We didn't talk about this. One of my favorite things you've ever given to me as a writer and a thinker is to be wary of life hacks. Like a couple of, So I think a lot of people right now are trying to hack quarantine and trying to hack not going to the gym and trying to hack child rearing in an apartment. So can you tell us a little bit about why that word is such a red flag for you and why that thinking is not necessarily the right way to move forward?
Hard things are hard. I think it's better just to accept that hard things are hard than trying to make hard things easy by these quote unquote hacks. To me, like a hack is trying to get like an easy way or a quick fix or some like magic bullet solution. And very, very, very rarely for hard things are there quick fixes or magic bullet solutions. I don't think you can hack your mental health. I don't think you can hack your physical health. I don't think you can hack your relationship. And I think that the issue is that when you try to hack those things and you fail, you judge yourself, or you're like, oh, I'm broken, or you just go on to the next hack. And the other thing that worries me about the word hack is often hacks are things that you buy. So it's a service, or it's you have to buy this book, or you have to follow this person, and then you get the magic answer. To me, that's generally a red flag. I would much rather, and I tried to practice this in my own life, take advice from someone that says, wow, like you're stuck at home, or you're having issues in a relationship because you're stuck at home, or you're feeling really anxious right now, or you're struggling with your weight. I don't have any hacks. These are really hard parts of being a human, and change is hard, and it's going to be a long road, and I'm going to give you some advice on how to walk that road and walk it with you, but it's not going to be an overnight fix. That is where I go. That's the direction that I lean in. I mean, like, And after hundreds of years of evidence and data, like there are some things that are that we could consider hacks. Like a vaccine is a great hack not to get polio.
Never thought about it like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So like water is a great hack not to get dehydrated. But these are like quick fixes for big problems that happened over 100 years. So maybe in the future, thanks to like hundreds of years, we'll have hacks for some of what we currently experience as thorny problems. But I don't think that we're there yet on a lot of the things that hacks are being sold for right now, because it's particularly exactly what you said. It's hack some element of your dissatisfaction with quarantine. It's hack some element of your physical health, or it's hack some element of your emotional health. And unfortunately, I wish it weren't so. There is no supplement or particular way to journal or particular way to do anything that is going to change those things overnight.
Love it. That moved me, and I'm happy to have you say it to anyone who's watching this. So we talked about this at the beginning. We kind of started planning this because we were messaging back and forth as we were both responding to the news.
I want to say one more thing about hacks that just popped into my mind that I've been thinking a lot about recently. I also think that like hack culture sets this expectation that like you need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and just like fix your problems.
Yeah.
And it completely neglects the role of like love and self-compassion and acknowledging that like sometimes you're just in like a crappy context and things are out of your control. And I think like the other polar extreme, which is just to say like, well, oh, I've been dealt a bad hand, so I'm just going to like not do anything, is also wrong. And this gets back to the internet. Like we're connecting these pieces. On the internet, there's two camps. There is the pull yourself up by the bootstraps, everything is personal responsibility camp. And there is the everything is a structural problem, everything is somebody else's fault, just like love, 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 kumbaya camp. And in my journey as a person and as a coach and as a writer, the people that I've seen have the best change say, screw that, that's not binary. Yeah, there's all kinds of structural injustice and problems in the world and they affect me. And yeah, I'm going to do everything I can to pull myself up by the bootstraps, and I'm going to love myself along the way, and I'm going to love others. So it's like you have to marry these things.
Right. Which is gray and messy and not a 5-step plan.
Yeah, and sometimes, you know, quote unquote personal responsibility for a certain person in a certain context is going to be 90% of the solution, and sometimes it's going to only be 10%. So it's like about acknowledging that. And again, hack culture completely oversimplifies that. It's like you have a problem, I have the solution, implement the solution, and your problem will get better.
Yeah, just 5 installments. All you got to do is send me
penicillin, antibiotics, another good hack that works.
just took us to 150 years to get there. So we were talking just as humans and messaging back and forth, and you were really experiencing some frustration and some anger. I think you used the word anger, and I'm certainly no stranger to anger these days. What would be some advice you could give to people who are working hard at feeling good or even just feeling normal as some of these very overwhelming, out of our control situations are developing and really affecting all of us?
Am I allowed to swear or no?
You know what? You can. I want you to be the realest you possible.
So this is something that my therapist told me long before COVID. And that is that we shouldn't shit all over ourselves. So we also shouldn't should all over ourselves.
Oh, I see.
And what it means to should on yourself is I shouldn't be feeling sad. I shouldn't be feeling angry. Or I shouldn't be feeling happy right now. The world is ending and I'm happy because I had a child or because like I did something great. So that should is judging an emotion. And the judgment of the emotion is almost always worse than the emotion itself, because what you're feeling is what you're feeling. And the more that you can just say like, I'm feeling really angry right now, or I'm feeling really sad right now, or I'm feeling really happy right now, that gives you all kinds of space to decide what you want to do about it. Whereas when you say I'm feeling sad and I shouldn't be, you're not only sad, but now you're like sad that you're sad. Yeah, there's this parable about the second arrow, And it goes like this. The first arrow is something that you might not be able to control. So it could be a feeling or a thought. The second arrow you can control. And the second arrow is what you do about the first arrow. And if what you do about it is judge it and get mad at yourself, well, then you're literally just hitting yourself with multiple arrows. But if that first arrow happens and you just acknowledge that it's happening, and then you give yourself some space to try to take a productive action, then it's not to say it won't hurt. That first arrow still hurts, but you're not continuously hitting yourself with other arrows. So I'm a big believer that mood follows action. And what I mean by that is when you have a negative feeling or an intrusive thought that you don't like, just acknowledge that it's happening and then say like, okay, I wish it weren't happening, but here's what's going on. What are my core values? What are the things that I most want to embody in the world? And even though I'm feeling this negative way, can I force myself to go try to embody those things in the world?
Yeah.
Because I don't believe that you can think your way to being happy or feel your way to being happy. I think you have to act your way to those things, even when it's hard. So I've had some really tough times in my life where I don't feel like getting out of bed. And what I've learned is that, well, sometimes if you're physically tired, stay in bed. But the brain can trick the body into oh, you're so tired. But in fact, you're just in a rut. And the best way to break your rut is say, well, one of my core values is connection. So even though my brain is telling me not to connect, I'm going to pick up the phone and connect. Mm-hmm. Or one of my core values is health. So even though my brain is telling me the world's going crappy and that you should be so sad, I'm going to force myself to go exercise. Even if right now exercise means do push-ups in your home. Right. So it's basically about knowing what your best self looks like and kind of gently nudging yourself to do that regardless of how you're feeling. And then the last thing I'll say with anger in particular is when you explore anger, on the other side of anger, there's usually sadness or helplessness. So you're feeling really angry about something. That's often because you feel like it's a situation that you wish you could control, but you can't. So a big part of managing anger for me is asking myself, well, can I not really control it, or are there actions that I can take? So if you're feeling super angry about an elected official or about an organization's response to something, rather than go on social media and yell about it or calling your family member or friends that feel the other way and telling them all the ways that they're wrong, go volunteer for an organization that's trying to make things better. So use that anger as a way to try to take some power back, because often underlying anger is helplessness.
Yeah. I don't know if you know this, Brad, you just quoted 2 Rage Against the Machine songs.
No.
Yes. Both Take the Power Back and Anger is a Gift.
They swear a lot too. So for the grade school audience, talk to your parents about this before you get your Rage for the Machine.
Yeah, do not just click to a link. You should although you know what, it's really good stuff. I think that band was about 27 years too early. Brad, thank you very much for taking time out of your morning. I know you've got a 2-year-old at home, and you're parenting through this and just trying to be a human. So we appreciate you taking time out of your family's time and your time. Last thing, and you gave us a lot to think about. If there's one thing that people need to hear right now, or I don't know who needs to hear this, but what would you say? What would you want to just put out there real fast to close this out?
I think that whatever you're feeling is what you're feeling, and that's okay. And oftentimes on the other side of the things that we fear the most are where our core values are and the things that we love. So if this COVID thing has made you really scared about getting sick and dying, on the other side of that is probably a love of other people in life. And the more that you can have the courage to work through that fear and fully show up and live your life and do what you can to connect with other people, all things considered that it's bizarre times, not only the better you'll feel, but the better the world will be, because you're living out of a place of love, not fear.
Love it. Brad, if they want to hear more from you.
And this stuff's really hard. I sound like a guru right now, but I'm not. There are times when I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I said that because I'm a fraud. So also acknowledging that all of this stuff is really, really hard to practice. And if I, quote unquote, expert on this, shoot 50% on the stuff that comes out of my mouth, it's a great day. So give yourself the benefit of the doubt too, because this stuff's hard and it's an ongoing practice. And don't think of it like I'm either crushing it or I'm not. Think of it like I'm paying close attention and I'm practicing.
Perfect. And I'm no expert either. That's why I keep trying to put this stuff out here because I know I need to hear it.
It's great. It's so great. Yep.
If we want to read more of your stuff, where would we go?
That's a good question. So you go to Twitter, where I'm at B Stallberg, and I'm fairly active on Twitter. And then my website with my collaborative partner Steve Magnus is www.thegrowtheq.com.
Okay, I will link both of those in the about section of this YouTube video. Brad, it is May the 4th that we're recording this, which is
and check out our podcast, the Growth Equation Podcast. I forgot, it's new, so I got to plug it because I'm proud of it. I think we're doing a pretty good job with it. So sorry, you were saying it's May the 4th?
It's May the 4th. It's Star Wars Day, and it is one of the famous lines from Star Wars is now the student has become the master. I feel that's very appropriate as I hear all this stuff that I need to hear coming out of your mouth all these years after you were in my 11th grade English class. So
well, thank you for being such a good teacher then, and for continuing to teach in all the different ways that you teach, whether it's your classroom or your text messages to me, man. I love you.
Love you too, brother. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording and we'll say goodbye off air for all the tears and hugs. 6 feet apart, of course. All right, so stop this right